Hi guys, I'm Ariel, this is SpicyUterus, welcome back to my channel. So I'm going to try filming again at night. The birds are a lot more quiet, so hopefully this oversaturated LED fairyland that I live in doesn't overwhelm you, and if it does, I'm sorry. Before we get into today's topic, behind me you will see that my tank is very cloudy right now, and that is because I did a water change about 5 minutes ago, like literally 5 minutes ago. You will also see that it has a big ugly net over the top, and that is because I am waiting on a custom lid to arrive, which I will be filming how I assemble and install that whole hot mess. But in the meantime, I had been running it partially open top, so I was leaving it covered with this net during the day and then leaving it open while I was at home as a precaution because I didn't want my light to overheat because it's under the net, and also because I'm vain and it looks nice. And today I learned a valuable lesson when my firefish shot out of the tank and into my bed. He survived, he's fine. But yeah, not doing open tanks again. Open top tanks, don't do them. Learned a valuable lesson. Luckily, my fish is fine. For today's video, I am going to talk about, sadly, a very common but very often fatal bird health issue. A women's reproductive issue, if you will. Egg binding is when a female bird decides to lay an egg and it becomes stuck for whatever reason. It can be because the egg is malformed, so not the right shape. It can be because the egg is too soft. It can be because she is deficient in vitamins or out of shape, so she's having a really hard time pushing the egg out because she doesn't have the muscle mass. It can be because of her anatomy. Some birds are just more prone to egg binding than others. There's all kinds of reasons why birds will get egg bound, but it is most common in smaller birds, so budgies, finches, parrotlets, and if the egg doesn't come out, it is fatal. It is unfortunately something that goes downhill very, very quickly, and Nala and I were unfortunate enough to experience this for ourselves last week. I want to talk about it because while I was dealing with this, I was obviously spending a lot of time online on forums trying to get opinions and advice, and there was surprisingly little out there. So this is gonna be a story time / education video. Where to begin? Last Wednesday, I let the birds out. They were in their sleep cages, which is in my bathroom over there. So I let them out into my hallway, into the aviary, for the morning, and I noticed that Nala's poops, like her morning poop, was really big. And that sounds like a weird symptom to notice, but I noticed that her cloaca looked a little bit dilated, and that was odd for her. It was a little bit out of character. The cloaca, for those of you who don't have birds, is essentially your bird's butthole. They only have the one opening. So all of their poop, all of their pee, their eggs, everything all comes through the same place. So that is their cloaca. So I noticed that her cloaca looked a little bit enlarged, and I thought that was a little bit weird, but she's old. She'll be 8 or 9, I think 9, this spring, so in June. She's always had a couple little quirks, so I just decided to keep an eye on it because she ate really well, she drank really well, and there was nothing out of the ordinary. So that was at about 11 o'clock in the morning that happened. I went to work, came home, came in to check on the birds, and Nala was pretty obviously in distress and was showing very typical symptoms of egg binding. What are the symptoms of egg binding? Egg binding will typically manifest as straining from the bird, different from when they normally lay an egg. Normally, when they climb into like a nest or wherever, their nest box, to lay their egg, it should be fairly straightforward. They shouldn't be laying down there for an extended amount of time, really like pushing and trying to, like, almost like they're delivering a baby. Like, it should not take that long. She was up high. She was not down on the bottom of the aviary or anything. She was on her comfy perch, very visibly straining. She had plucked all of the feathers around her cloaca, so her bum was naked and a little bit of her belly. So this obviously had been going on for a little while because she was quite tired. She was fluffed up, she was bobbing her tail, which is a sign of medical distress in birds. It means they're breathing really hard or that their breathing is somehow restricted. She hadn't prolapsed, but her uterus with the egg in it was sticking about 1/2 inch out of her cloaca, so I could see it. There was bright pink tissue. It wasn't bleeding. but I could see through the tissue. I could see white under there, so I could instantly see that, okay, this is an egg. Nala has never laid before in her life. That's what happened. So I called the vet immediately. There is one avian vet in my area who is my regular vet. If you watched my vlog when Chip had to go to the vet, that's same guy. And he was unavailable. He had an emergency, he couldn't see me. So I called the emergency clinic, said to bring her in, and that they didn't have an avian vet, but they did have vets who had treated egg binding before, so they would be able to at least keep her stable until we could get her either to pass the egg or get her to somebody who could. I'm incredibly fortunate to have a vet who offers financing, because this got expensive really quickly. To the vet, they immediately brought her back for an x-ray, and I will post the x-ray here so you can see. She did indeed have a well-formed but very large egg inside her, so that sucked. On the one hand, I was relieved that it wasn't a tumor or something like more terminal, but I also was very aware of just how dangerous egg binding is. Why is egg binding so dangerous? Because of the anatomy of birds, and because they only have the one cloaca for everything to exit, egg binding can become serious for a number of reasons very quickly. The biggest one is that if the egg is stuck in the cloaca, nothing can pass, so that will cause a buildup of feces up and through the digestive tract, which will eventually cause sepsis and blood poisoning. In addition to that, the reproductive tract sits right on top of a lot of vital organs. Typically, what makes egg binding fatal for so many birds is they will either die from blood poisoning. If the egg breaks when they try to pass it, that will become fatal really quickly. You can die from exhaustion from trying to pass the egg. They can have a heart attack from the stress. There's just so many different ways that this would not end well. Once we figured out that egg binding was indeed what was happening to poor Nala, the vet decided to keep her overnight at the emergency clinic. So overnight they gave her Metacam, which is an anti-inflammatory. They gave her some Pitocin, which is a drug designed to induce labor, so to help her dilate a little bit. And then they also kept her in a high humidity room that was well heated with multiple heating pads. All of those things will help her relax, help her body kind of fight this egg. The other thing they did as well is they put essentially lube around her cloaca. They used a combination of Pet Safe lube and a little bit of, I believe it was olive oil, massaged into that area to kind of give the egg a little bit of traction when it did pass. Unfortunately, she did not pass the egg the first night. She was stable throughout the night. She was also on pain management, so she wasn't super uncomfortable, but she did not pass the egg. And when they felt her abdomen in the morning, it actually felt like she had almost sucked the egg back up a little bit higher. It was much higher in her abdomen, which then became an issue because it was too high in her abdomen for them to remove it safely. Have to be quiet. We're dealing with a pretty serious thing outside the door right now. She got super chirpy when she saw me. Now on to day 2. Went into like follow up with the emergency vet, and they tried again to get a hold of my vet, who was still unable to see her. Sent us to a second vet. That was we got her over there Thursday afternoon, so the last day before Good Friday. So they literally, like, this vet had actually gone home for the day, and she came back to try and see us and help us out. So that was really wonderful of her. But she, unfortunately, as soon as she started feeling around in Nala's abdomen, she was like, this egg is too high up. I could put her under and try to remove it, but frankly, I think that would be less safe than giving her another day to try and pass it. So I was like, okay. So we put her back in the car and drove her all the way back to the emergency vet because I didn't want to bring her home and have to try and treat her throughout the night. I was so scared that if I brought her home and like fell asleep overnight, that I would wake up and she would have passed. trying to get rid of this stupid egg. I just felt a lot better keeping her at the emergency clinic where she was monitored 24/7 and being medicated. We're doing a really good job of looking after her, especially considering that they don't typically treat birds. They really went above and beyond for us. I'm very grateful to the emergency clinic. So she spent second night at the emergency vet. On day 3, which was Good Friday, she still had not passed the egg. The situation was becoming a little bit more dire at this point. The longer they go without passing the egg, the more dangerous it becomes. Obviously, they get more tired, the egg is pressing on more stuff, the inflammation is now building, so the inflammation itself is cutting off the supply to more stuff. She was still pooping, which was good, although there was blood in her stool, so she was starting to show some signs of internal distress. I had a very long phone conversation with the vet at the emergency clinic, and it was pretty rough. So it's actually been 3 days, still hasn't passed the egg. And then they just called me today, like 20 minutes ago, to say that I should probably come get her and bring her home for the weekend because they're hoping that being in a less stressful place might help her pass it. But also they are, I mean, egg binding is a life or death situation. And it sucks because like the reality of that kind of like just hit me an hour ago. And I mean, I know she's old, but nobody wants to lose a pet. Okay, I don't want to cry again, so we're gonna move on. It hasn't gotten worse, but it's not getting better. And that's kind of everybody's concern at this point. But I will be very lucky, and Nala will be very lucky if she comes out of this alive. And that's hard to think about. I'm gonna go pick Nala up and bring her home for the night. The other birds will be really happy to see her. They've been very much missing her. We're literally just taking it hour by hour, and it's exhausting and it's scary, but that's what it is, and that's what you do when you love your animals. You love them regardless of... Oh, I'm gonna cry. You can't tell from my last couple videos, it's been a very, very hard month over here. But that's what you do when you love your animals. Up to this point, she'd been very touch and go. They were like, you know, this is a serious situation, but she's stable, she's trying. The vet called me and she said, you know, I'm not sure that she's gonna get through the weekend. She can't keep this egg in her all weekend. So either she needs to pass it herself or we need to do surgery. And surgery for us was a last ditch attempt, really. You need to surgically remove an egg. It's done under general anesthesia. They go in, they suck the contents out of the egg, which collapses the egg, and then they remove it in pieces. I'm gonna try to talk about this part without getting emotional. It was a really, really scary time, but I've told the story to quite a few people now, so hopefully it's out of my system. Pure chaos that erupted as soon as we got home. Hey you guys, so I just put Nala in the aviary for like 5 minutes with dim light just so she could say hi to the birds, and then put her to bed, and she immediately went up to her favorite rope perch and is straining and trying to pass this egg. So I'm not gonna get any closer, sorry you guys can't really see what's going on, but this is the first time she's tried to lay in the 3 days since this started, and we really, really want her to pass this egg, so I'm gonna stay up and watch her really closely tonight. And hopefully we can get this egg the hell out of my bird. She tried for about half an hour to pass the egg, and then it was getting pretty obvious that it wasn't going anywhere. I felt pretty helpless, to be honest. I was just kind of sitting on the floor watching her really closely to make sure that nothing got too questionable. And just cheering her on, really talking to her, trying to keep her calm, encouraging her, because that was really all I could do. And then things took a turn. Okay, and she just prolapsed, so I'm getting an emergency bag together right now, and we are going back to the vet. So my other vet, like my regular vet, had literally just called me, messaged me on Facebook to say that he would open up his clinic for us tomorrow morning to take us in super early on his 1 day off in like months to try and get this dealt with, and we had everything organized and ready to go. And as soon as I put her back in the aviary, she started straining and immediately prolapsed. So I just called the emergency clinic and they said bring her straight back. So that's what I'm doing. I'll update you when I can. Her whole uterus just prolapsed. So what that means is instead of the egg pushing out, the egg was stuck inside her uterus, and when she strained, her entire uterus just went right out, her cloaca out through her behind, and was actually hanging about 2 inches out of her butt, exposed to the open air with the egg still in it. I knew that it was a lot more serious at this point, and that was when I panicked, was prepared to lose my bird, and now here she was with her organs hanging out in very visible medical distress, starting to bleed. It honestly was the scariest like 10 minutes I think of my life. I have footage of this as well. I will insert it. It is very out of focus, and it does show her prolapsed. So if you have a squeamish stomach, you probably don't want to watch this because there's quite a bit of tissue hanging out. Again, it's out of focus, so I don't know how out of focus it is. I remember when I filmed it noticing that it was out of focus, but I thought that she was dying in those moments. So I wasn't really watching it, and I won't be watching it when I insert it because I thought that I was watching my bird die. Okay, so we're in the lobby waiting for our ride to the emergency clinic. I'm incredibly fortunate that it's only about 5 minutes from here, but I will show you what her prolapse looks like. So just a heads up, this is a little bit gory. She's not bleeding or anything, but the tissue is red. So what you're about to see is her uterus, and you'll see it's really swollen. That's actually the egg. So that's what we're dealing with right now. Not looking great, guys. Sit tight, babe. Okay, so we get back to the vet and they rushed her right back, and another vet that I hadn't seen yet came out, and she said, okay, essentially what happened is she has prolapsed. Her cervix did not dilate at all, so in all of her straining she literally just pushed her whole uterus out because it's not going to come out on its own. And I was like, okay. They didn't want to put her under anesthesia. So she said, I'm going to try and I'm going to freeze the area. I'm going to give her a local anesthesia, or I'm going to give her a local anesthetic, and I'm going to make a small incision, and I'm going to try and remove this egg and just massage it out and hope that it passes that way. If she survives the next 5 minutes, she'll be fine. If she starts to go into any kind of medical distress beyond what she's already in, I will be putting her under, and after that she has probably about a 10% survival rate. And so I was like, okay, here we go. Do what you have to do. It's 11 o'clock at night. I hadn't had a full night's sleep in days by this point because I was just so worried about her, and I knew that this was the end of it. She was either going to come out of this in the next minute or two or not. So I kind of just took a deep breath and I was like, okay, do what you have to do. Like, this is not about me and my emotions right now. This is about saving my pet. So you do you. And I just texted my mom and I was like, okay, this is what's going on. If she lives, great. And if not, we'll deal with that as it comes. And just took a deep breath and waited in the waiting room. And it was really scary not being able to be there with her. I'm gonna cry. No, I'm not. It's fine. Anyway, so it was really scary not being able to be with her, especially knowing that I didn't get to say goodbye to her or anything. They literally just whisked her right back to try and save her life. So I just kind of sat there thinking about all of the years that we'd had together and being happy that they were good years and that we got to do so much. And then the vet came out with a little tube that had Nala's egg in it, and she was so happy, and the techs all cheered because they've been helping us out all week, and they knew her pretty well by that point. So it was just such a load off. Yeah, it was a hard one, guys. It was a really hard one. I know I've had a couple pet emergencies this year, but this one was definitely the hardest. But they cleaned her up, they brought her out, and I will be shellacking it and making it into an ornament because you need to commemorate these things. She chirped at me and then immediately fell asleep. She was so tired. I was so tired, but I brought her home that night at around 12:31ish and set up her little hospital cage, which is right behind me here, and I sat up all night watching her to make sure she didn't like die. She slept the better part of the night. Around 4 in the morning she got up and took a big chunk out of her cuddle bone. I did also give her 3 shots of calcium and some Metacam to help build up the calcium that she would have lost building the egg, and also to reduce the inflammation. Anyway, here's some footage from the next day. It is day 4. Everything is much more calm. We did get Nala's egg out last night. It was a very scary about half hour or so from when she prolapsed to when they were able to remove it. Not a good time. But as you can see, she is much more social. I'll put this down here because I don't want to disturb her. She is eating. She spent the day at my mom's, and because I was working, my mom said that she napped most of the day, which is good. That's exactly what we want. She's been preening a lot, cleaning herself up because she was pretty bloodied. And then this afternoon she even got into her dish and had a little bit of a bath, washed her face off, all that good stuff. I did add a cuddle bone in the back there just for some calcium. And I just put a little bit of millet in because the others are having some. And if you can see her vent, it's still pretty swollen, but it's healing well. Her poops are good. She's got her heating pad down here. She's doing a lot better. She is really tired, which I mean is fair. She's had a really rough last couple of days, and last night the 2 of us really only got about 3 hours of sleep. So hard time for everyone, but as of right now she is stable and on the mend. Alright, so it is day 5. I didn't really do an update on Nala yesterday because not a whole lot had changed. Also, excuse Cusco's chirping. He's on my head right now because I just got home from work. Anyways, I just kind of wanted to give a little hospital cage tour of her setup right now. I did have a couple people ask about it. So pretty much this is it. It is a small vision cage. Everybody knows I love my vision cages. I like this one especially. On Tuesday, so about 6 days after this all happened, I put her back in the aviary for the first time. She was really energetic, really kind of begging to be let in. She had spent the better part of the weekend asleep, just recovering. She was really exhausted. My mom babysat her while I was at work, and she slept at her house as well, so she was just really tired. Put her back in the aviary on Tuesday, and she did pretty well. She still has that weak leg from where the egg was sitting. It did pinch off a nerve. It is getting better, but very slowly. Nerves take a long time to recover, so she might regain full use of it, she might not. Basically how it looks is she just kind of hobbles on that one side a little bit, and when she goes to land, also, sorry I keep looking this way, there's a window like right here. When she goes to land on a perch, she kind of wobbles a little bit and has to steady herself, and if she lands too forcefully on a perch, she'll actually like swing right over, so then she has to kind of catch herself. But she does it and she's okay. I vet wrapped a couple different perches for her just to kind of give her some better grip. The other birds were super happy to see her. Indy has actually become really close with her in the 2 weeks since this happened. He wasn't close to her before she had all of this, so I don't know if he can just tell that she needs some love or what, but he's definitely spending a lot more time with her. Essentially, to wrap up, I am incredibly grateful to the 8 vets, no, it was 12 total, 12 or 8 vets and 12 or 8 techs, I'm getting my numbers mixed up, who treated Nala over the holiday weekend. I am also extra grateful to my own vet, who is Dr. Jeff Goodall at Sunnyview Vet, for offering to come in for me on his 1 day off in like a month to try and remove this egg surgically as soon as he found out what was going on. I'm so grateful that so many people stepped up and truly went above and beyond their own ability level to make sure that Nala had the best possible shot at survival. There's truly no, oh God, I'm gonna cry again. But there's no words for how grateful I am. I just feel so privileged to be a part of such a supportive pet community. I got so many messages from all of you and so many people calling to check in, and I was gonna wait to make this video because I was like, oh, I'm gonna cry, and then I was like, nah, it's been long enough, I'll be fine. I'm not fine. From the bottom of my heart, thank you to every single person who helped Nala and who saved her life. And thank you so much to every single one of you who reached out and checked in and sent me so much love. When you're a bird owner, a lot of people don't understand how attached you get to them. And I had a lot of people say like, oh, she's just a bird. Like, why are you spending so much money treating just a bird? And she's not just a bird, she's my girl. And to have so many people recognize that, validate how much she meant to me, felt really sweet. So thank you so much. I'm not gonna cry. Anyway, Nala's much better now, but she's doing really well. She's eating, she's preening, she's flying around a little bit. She's still a little bit withdrawn, but she's definitely on the mend. And I can't wait to enjoy so much more time with her that I wasn't sure that I would get. So thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry this video got kind of serious. If you want something less serious, I did just film a drunken dog food tangent. That is my previous upload, so hit that up. But thank you so much for watching. I will be back in my next video with a training video all about Cusco's tricks, because it's been a minute since Cusco's been on this channel and he takes issue with that. I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you again for all of your love and support while Nala was sick.